Hello and welcome everyone to a panel discussion on connectivity and data integration as a key driver to technological advances. We all know about the drive to make our shipping industries sustainable and fit for the future. We all know about shipping's decarbonization drive and the expectations being placed on those that operate the ships that carry so much of the things we need and want around the world. We all, of course, have access and know about technology advances that are reshaping how we live our lives, how we communicate, and how we're connected. In this session, we will be focusing on how shipping, that critical ocean transportation link in the supply chain, is becoming digital and opening the opportunities to realize increased benefits through data integration and improved technology across the transport chain. Digitalization is about the data and how it creates opportunities when it can be assessed and acted on. In the context of our digitalization discussion, this relies increasingly on rapid data assessment through artificial intelligence and machine learning. So some data can reveal details about container shipments and build-up of boxes, but this is different to the data needed to assess weather predictions, route planning, and then vessel performance. The key to this is having the right people around the table to know what data is available, what data can be collected, and what information it can lead to. And then having the right people who can create the algorithms, programs, and tools to turn data into actionable insights and thus innovative technologies. But that is not new, of course. It is now a fairly common practice. The key here is to move to a common language to enable the silos of talent to share the data and findings. This is where we begin to talk about increased connectivity, advanced collaboration, and deeper trust. We have a growing need for cross-systems interoperability. But how do we do that? How do we make sure the data from one manufacturer's equipment is compatible with that of another? That companies can share data and insights while being competitors and create advanced systems that can extend beyond supply chains. Can we have a connected modern shipping industry, connected to other industries that use tools to create process innovation and system efficiencies? Can the ocean part of a company, whether a retailer, aggregate producer, bulk grain shipper, car maker, or other goods manufacturer, be better integrated? Are these companies willing to have a data black hole when the goods leave one port and arrive at another? The answer is, of course, no, and we know that. We know that more connectivity and compatibility is expected and is being created. The choice is whether it is created by the shippers and cargo owners or from the shipping industry itself. Who takes the lead in creating integration? Collaboration with customers and clients is a trend leading to new ways of doing business. There is a need then for standards and system compatibility. Luckily, a growing number of companies recognize this and work across their supply chain partners to achieve it. One of the premises of efficient shipping is that the overall supply chain is as effective as possible, allowing flexibility to adapt to sudden changes while being lean enough not to be a burden on supply. In shipping, we often think about the efficiency of the vessel or the voyage, but the more we link cargo data across the supply or transport chain, we can assess if the factors that make for a perfectly efficient voyage are the ones that make for efficient supply chains. A vessel may sail from one port to another, but the cargo then sits at the terminal for days before being shipped further. We understand that large container ships can have a superior fuel efficiency per container compared to smaller vessels. But if thousands of offloaded containers create terminal inefficiencies or bottlenecks in transshipment, are we getting the best of the technology? This is why we should be looking at all the data points and all the ways this can be used to create efficiencies and look at whether these efficiencies create inefficiencies elsewhere. We need to study the data from outside our typical silos or connect silos up more effectively. So in terms of shipping's position in the transport chain, we can see how better connectivity and data use can create better customer experience increased reassurance, and give the customer visibility of their transport chains, even if this visibility is from one algorithm to another one AI to another. So with that in mind, let's turn to our panel to get their thoughts. Let's start by introducing everyone. Please, I would like you all to introduce yourselves. I'll start with Sakura.
Hi, everyone. It's my privilege to be here with this great panel, with this great brains to discuss the data connectivities. My name is Sakura Kuma. I'm the CEO of APM Terminals Japan. I have been in the shipping and port industry for more than 2 decades. Most of my career was with NYK, the biggest shipping lines of Japan. And now I'm with Maersk Group, the biggest shipping line in the world. So glad to be in this industry. It's really exciting. Still, I keep my passion so high that I think it's going to be my lifetime career in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Sakura. And Pia, coming to you.
Hi, great to meet you all, and thank you so much to the organizers for allowing for this interesting discussion. My name is Pia Meling. I'm the vice president of a company called Massterly, which is a joint venture between Kongsberg Maritime and the Wilhelmsen Group, 2 large Norwegian companies specializing in maritime equipment on the one end and on operations and logistics on the other end. So together, these companies would like to take a stake in the market for autonomous ships. So meaning unmanned vessels or vessels with reduced manning, supported from a remote operations center on shore. So that's what we're doing. And we'll get back to some examples of what we're working on here in Norway. But of course, connectivity is vital for these products and services to be efficient and safe. So it's great to be here in this panel, and I'm looking forward to learning from all of you.
Thank you so much, Pia. Damien?
Yes, hi there, everyone. Delighted to be here, and thanks for the invitation to join the panel and join the discussion today. Damien Stables, I work for INMARSAT, based in the UK, a company that's been making a lot of headlines recently in the connectivity space. I look after indirect sales, and of course, you know, for INMARSAT, the maritime industry and the maritime business is the bulk of what we do here, dating back 40 years now. So very keen to participate and to participate part of this discussion today.
Thank you so much, Damien. Ivan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Pretty glad to be here. I'm the executive director and the founder of deep tech startup Marine Digital. We are working on the emission reduction in the vessel operation, applying data acquisition technologies and artificial intelligence for better navigation. We'll be glad to discuss all of the topics regarding the connectivity. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thank you so much. And Vidya, welcome.
Hi everyone. Myself Vidya Nambiar. I'm part of CMA-CGM e-commerce team, providing digital solutions to our customers. CMA-CGM is the world's one of the leaders in shipping, and the technology and innovation is in our DNA itself. It has around 110,000 employees worldwide, including 2,400 employees in Marseille, where our headquarters is located, and globally 755 offices, more than 160 countries around the world. The group is strongly committed towards energy transition and digital transformation for our customers and our employees also. So digitalization is key differentiator today, and we are working towards our customers' expectations by providing such solutions in day-to-day activities.
Thank you so much. And I will start this discussion with Ivan. We hear a lot of talk about AI and machine learning when it comes to data. we talk about algorithms. Let's look for a minute at what we mean by algorithms and how have they been developing as part of this data and digitalization development.
Yeah, thanks a lot for this question. Basically, the maritime sector stays right now in 2021 far behind any average industry, as we see, because any algorithm, any machine learning algorithm, artificial intelligence algorithm is based on some kind of a data set. And right now, as we see it in Marine Digital, the challenge of the next years, the challenge of this year is actually having any normal data set regarding the satellite, regarding the historical operations of the vessel, regarding the historical operations of the terminal. Basically, we see that in terms of understanding what is the practical value of the algorithm, it's actually a bit smarter approach working with this data. It's not only what if results or some kind of preliminary integrated logic, but the core sense, for example, of the machine learning algorithm is to help you to find the relations and the connections in the huge, enormous amount of data, which are not obvious even for the human brain sometimes. So right now we see that there are a lot of possible practical values, not only emission reduction through a better navigation or better operation efficiency in the huge container terminals by just optimizing the position and loading and unloading the operations of these containers, but also, for example, the prediction of the maintenance operation for the equipment, any kind of predictions of the future queries in the port, and sometimes there are projects inside the market landscape that are working with the prediction of the prices for example, for oil or for other commodities based on the understanding of the AIS data and the satellite data of the vessel traffic, for example. The actual core sense behind the algorithm is to work on the historical data, to work into details and to understand the real correlations between the different data events, between different industry events, between current sets of the results, for example, prices, queries, consumption, costs, and etc. And afterwards, to help us to forecast, to predict these events in the future, at least in the nearest future. For example, 2 weeks, 1 month. I'm not talking about several years because it seems to be overcomplicated. And then also at the same time, we see right now that there's basically a huge problem accumulating the data from the particular terminal, even if it's a modern advanced terminal, even if it's a modern vessel company, if it's a modern vessel. Still, the current problem of the industry is actually a huge long-term legacy, because the market of the trucks, it's maybe, I don't know, 60 years old. Marine operations been developed through maybe several hundred years. And this brings us the legacy of the operation specific, this brings us the legacy of this paper operations, fax operations, any kind of data storage, and etc. So right now, in parallel with machine learning algorithms, which has a pretty understandable possible application, at the same time, the problem with the data sets, with the standards inside the industry, like terminal to terminal, terminal to vessel, port to vessel, vessel to vessel, etc. It pretty much feels like one of the most challenging problems. In one line, I can say also with data transfer, because on the shore, Wi-Fi, GSM, even fax and telephone appeared much earlier than in maritime. And right now, basically, maybe only through the last 5 years, we started using the satellite connection to acquire data from the vessel in particular. So that's basically the core sense behind the algorithms.
Thank you so much. And you did mention a few of the issues, but I wanted to ask, what are the key next steps to better data integration? I mean, what have you been involved with? How do you think this will develop further?
Yeah, thanks a lot for this question. Right now, we are working with the data acquisition from the vessels, from the like retrofitters, from the modern vessels, and afterwards synchronizing this data with the other different data sets. For example, satellite weather, surface currents, port queries, AS data. And we see that it's a pretty problematic thing that, first of all, we got no worldwide standard for data exchange. As in banking sector, we got SWIFT as the international standard for the data exchange for perhaps 60 years already. The attempts inside the European Union, 5 years old. So it's just to understand the specifics of the maritime. And we see that basically everyone who is big, like Port of Rotterdam, maybe Hapag-Lloyd, CGM, everyone starts developing internal standard. So the data integration seems to be the spin-off of the API service, of the synchronization of the different big stakeholders of the industry, also like different satellite companies, for example, INMARSAT, and actually the possible valuable service based on this data is actually the spin-off of the quality of this data, of ability to acquire this data, of ability to use this data, of the access to this data. Because also we have the problem that everyone scares, you know, if someone will see how the engine rotates inside this particular vessel, this affects the core business of the group, like in general. So this is basically the stage of the application of new reality of understanding how the data might be used inside the marine sector, where the particular problems, where the barriers, the actual framework, if it's okay or not okay to use it in this particular way. So right now, to finalize what I just said, is the next steps are actually building, first of all, pretty advanced systems to filter and normalize different data sources, to have them in one structure, in one form. And afterwards, the next steps to work and understand in the better details how the artificial intelligence might help vessel companies, terminals, different industry processes in some practical form. So it's right now there are like several applications been done already, but I think something will emerge in the next like couple, 2-3 years.
Thank you, Ivan. And I will move on to Damien. I wanted to start with Ivan and Damien to see the connectivity side, to see the applications and the tool side, and then how this can be applied, actually be applied. And then, of course, we'll be talking with Pia, Sakura, and Vidya on this. So going to Damien, we have seen how the pandemic has impacted the need for greater connectivity and communication, especially in the light of the crew crisis that so many governments took, some more, some less action to repair. But from a satellite provider's perspective, what has the pandemic done to increase business-to-business connectivity? Have ship owners become more trusting of technology as a result of greater necessity? How did you see this as INMARSAT in the last few months?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Despina. And I think, you know, the way to start in response to that question is to say that actually, you know, we've all become more dependent on connectivity, right? I think it's been an interesting period through the pandemic where everything and everyone has had to get used to working more remotely, and we've all become inadvertently more dependent on our technology and our connectivity to keep us in business and keep us connected with our loved ones as well. You talked about, you know, the challenge with as it relates to seafarers and the fact that they've spent extended periods away from home, you know, away from families, and you know the importance then that the connectivity plays, the role that connectivity plays in getting those crew members and those seafarers connected to their families. You know, we've certainly felt that acutely within INMARSAT and been working hard to try and help address the issues by providing, you know, free or discounted crew calling, you know, health monitoring software to deal with health issues for seafarers when they're away for extended periods, looking again at how we sort of enhance applications around crew safety and training. And all of those things obviously come with an increased connectivity requirement, and I think that has certainly helped to entrust further reliance on what we do, but also to illustrate to the industry at large the importance of that connectivity plays in keeping the whole show on the road. And I think more generally, when you consider the fact that 90% of the world's goods are still carried by ship, and if anything, that's become sort of more critical through the pandemic with the impact on the aviation sector. Almost everything that everyone uses or eats or wears has sort of had some touch point with the maritime industry through the pandemic, and obviously without those individuals, those seafarers doing what they do and being able to do what they do to keep everything moving over the last 18 months, and without the connectivity that's enabled those people to keep doing what they're doing, it would have been a very different experience for everyone, whether you're associated with the maritime industry or not. It would have been a very different experience for all of us, I think, without the connectivity keeping everything working and keeping the industry functioning through this very difficult period.
Absolutely, it has been very critical. There has been a lot of discussion in recent years about the amount of data that may be needed to be transferred if more and more vessels can use or will use digital tools and even become automated. Can you tell us a little about that, if and how this will impact bandwidth availability and connectivity for ship owners and managers? How is Inmarsat addressing that? Maybe something we can touch upon as well.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's fair to say that the challenges relating to the pandemic have actually accelerated trends towards digitization that were perhaps already underway before the pandemic. But certainly we've noticed within Inmarsat, that trend, or the sort of transition toward digital applications increasing. I think what's interesting is that if you think about the bit that we talked about with video conferencing and the need to keep crew connected, and the expectation now that crew have access to that video conferencing capability, that they have access to entertainment, whether it's Netflix or social media, other applications whilst they're at sea. There is now, I think, a very definitive trend towards Internet of Things based applications and solutions to try and improve dynamics like ship automation or help or remote provision or remote servicing, remote insurance audits, remote healthcare. There's a sort of question, I suppose, now to what extent all functions of the maritime industry can be better automated, leveraging the satellite connectivity, and obviously that has had a very definitive impact, or is continuing to have a very definitive impact on bandwidth expectations. And we are seeing a very dramatic increase in the volume of data being consumed over both our advanced sort of VSAT network, but also, in fact, on the legacy L-band as well, as a result of these trends. So I think it's Inmarsat's mission to ensure that we're obviously a customer-centric technology company, fundamentally, very centered on the maritime industry still. The networks are obviously designed for global mobility, so the mobility piece is obviously very critical in the maritime context. And the thing that really matters there is reliability. You need to make sure, and we need to ensure that if the industry becomes more dependent on the Internet of Things, if more digital applications are becoming prevalent in the way that the industry operates, it becomes even more increasingly important that the network is reliable and there to support and keep those applications running 100% of the time. Obviously, otherwise, there are all sorts of risks associated with that transition towards the digital world. So I think the short answer, it's a long-winded answer to basically come back to the short answer, which is yes. We have seen that the pandemic has sort of increased that trend towards digitization, towards internet-enabled applications, and obviously those things are driving bandwidth up, which is I think interesting in terms of our business for sure.
Thank you so much, Damien. I will move to Pia. Pia, we have been talking about autonomous shipping for a few years now. We have seen a few trial results announced, and we have seen the work progress at the IMO to look at the scope of regulations. and to see how they may need to be adapted if autonomous or unmanned vessels are to be operated internationally. With Massterly, the opening experiences will be national waters, not international ones. What are you hoping to learn from your opening experiences? What stumbling blocks have you had to overcome so far?
Yeah, thanks for that question. In Norway, we are driven by these first customers, commercial projects that we're dealing with. So it's a bit surprising, maybe it's not coming from the ship owner side, it's coming from the cargo owner side. So we have Yara, who's a fertilizer producer, and Asko, who's distributing groceries in Norway. And those companies have only used trucks for their logistics until now. And now they want to move to zero emission logistics. So that's the background for why they're moving into this. But to make vessels more competitive with trucks, we need to work on the cost, the operating cost, and actually the crew cost is quite a big portion of that for those small short sea vessels. So that's the background for starting in Norway, that we actually have a real commercial projects and demand for these services and products. But it's also easier, of course, to start with one legislative unit. So the Norwegian Maritime Authorities to work in this community that we have here in Norway with all the stakeholders and try to make a solution that is fully integrated and efficient. And learning so far is that the actual technology is not the stumbling block. It's, of course, the integration of all the different components and not only the vessel, of course, it's the connectivity part and it's the port operations and the remote operations center. And I think these projects have in common that it's a lot of emphasis on the vessel and the safe navigation, of course, but actually the real challenge is more in making a perfect logistics from A to B, including all the data and all the different suppliers that need to be integrated in one solution. So what we hope to learn is actually working in this it's a micro universe, right? There's the cargo owner is also the ship owner. There's two ports back and forth. It's very easy to predict what's going to happen. It's also a controlled environment in terms of the port or the terminals will be owned or operated by the same company. So, I mean, if we can't make it there, where can we optimize? This is the perfect case to optimize on collaborating and bringing all that data into one decision-making tool, as to say, and really make a perfect logistics. And then we want to learn from that and bring that into the wider context of short sea and deep sea shipping. We're not talking about unmanned vessels for deep sea, I believe, for a long, long time, if ever. So it's about looking at how we can assist the crew so that the crew can be more efficient and also more cost efficient for the owner, of course. And the pandemic also taught us that being a crew member is not that easy in times of difficulty. And there's actually quite a big shortage of crew in many areas of the world right now. So coupling that with the ongoing energy transition and all the new competence that is required to start running on new fuels, we see a huge need for centralizing some of these expertise and sharing it on a larger group of vessels. So you don't need necessarily to have all the competence on board each vessel. Of course, connectivity is key to make this happen on deep sea. On these first projects, it's quite easy because it's so close to shore that we have 4 and 5G coverage, and we also setting up even a private network, Kongsberg's maritime broadband radio. So we will have actually a proprietary network for these first vessels. But of course, that's not really scalable. That's just to get going. And then we need good satellite coverage at a reasonable cost to ensure that these benefits can be given to the deep sea shipping as well.
Thank you so much, Pia. And it's very interesting. You mentioned it in the beginning of your answer that, and it was one of the comments I made in the beginning, that shippers and cargo owners are starting to make the decisions of the shipping industry, the business decisions. It's interesting to see where that takes us, and if the shipping industry will perhaps start taking the lead in this. But you mentioned about some of the issues of integration, and I want to focus a little bit on that. Clearly, autonomous operations could mean having, a system or a remote located human having oversight of the vessel's operations. And of course, we all know ships are complex. They can have breakdowns. They are at the mercy of elements. So what considerations do you need to make when it comes to data integration across different components from different manufacturers, some of which may not be that easily connected to sensors?
Yeah, it's a very good point. One company needs to be responsible for the integration. But of course, there will be various suppliers providing equipment. And all these pieces, you need to think about cybersecurity. You need to think about how it's going to be redundant or segregated to make sure that if there's something that's failing at sea and you don't have any people on board, that you can still have a minimum risk condition, which is the demand from the authorities. So it doesn't mean that you cannot stop your operation. Maybe you have to stop your operation, but you should not pose any kind of danger to your surroundings. And that is the guiding principle. So of course, every component needs to be designed with that in mind, and then it all needs to be integrated to make sure that this is equally safe or safer than existing solutions, which is the guiding principle. And it's a lot of work going into that part because each component itself has been tested very well. So it's new that we're all putting it into one context where we're also applying a shore or a remote operation center and connectivity and what's the vessel's capabilities. And it's all actually one unit being certified as such. So it's a lot of innovation going into this, but it's also a lot of risk management, because we are thinking about all the time what could possibly go wrong, and we are designing the systems according to that. And I would say that actually a lot of the sailing fleet is more prone to cyber attacks than these vessels will be, or are much more prone to failures due to a single breakdown of a component than these vessels will be. So they are designed for this maximum safety. But that is also a thing that we are discussing with the DNV, the Classification Society, and the authorities, that of course the safety level should be equal or better than the existing vessels, but it should not be totally bulletproof, because then we cannot, nobody can afford this if it becomes bulletproof. So it's finding that limit where it's safer, but not as safe that nobody can actually use these solutions. So that's where we are. That's also one of the challenges that we are facing, that it's easy to just add on redundancy and have three different versions of every component, more or less, to make sure that if one fails, then there's two more. But we need to put it in context with what is the actual safety level of the current fleet. And there's quite a lot of breakdowns in the engine room that the crew is not able to fix during the voyage also today. So that's just my 5 cents on comparable risk. We need to keep that in mind.
Thank you so much, Priya. Very interesting. I will move to Sakura now. Sakura, container terminals have been at the forefront of automation and digitalization to ensure boxes can get processed on and off vessels and into or from hinterland quickly. From your perspective, which areas of supply chain data integration need to be focused on? Can better data utilization, better technology alleviate the risk of congestion, such has been seen lately?
Thanks, Despina. Actually, I'm very glad that Pia bring the cargo owners out. I mean, this is all about the customer experience. As service providers, we have shipping lines to serve. Shipping lines has a customer, which is cargo owner, to serve. And in terms of the customer experience, because every one of us are customer by ourselves, we were spoiled by Amazon. Nowadays, you just one click, you get every information you need. One click after you purchase the things from Amazon, you will see your package, where is your package heading to your home, and when you can expect it. So with that experience, now our cargo owners are no longer patient. They want a similar experience to the service that shipping lines to serve them. So the shipping lines in the middle, for example, Maersk Line, as you know, in 2018, Maersk Group has a new strategy to aim for the integrated container logistics provider, which means traditionally shipping lines only take care of the logistics in the ocean part. However, right now it's ocean, land, and the sea. And the sky and the air. So as connector between the ocean and land, the port is really a connector to the whole supply chain. When we go back to the customer experience, what customer wants? Like I said, they're not patient anymore. They want every information. They want to know exactly where the package is. So from that perspective, the information that shipping industry need to be able to provide to the customer, now it seems like it has to be compared to the experience that you shop at Amazon. In Maersk Group right now, we're developing a system called Trade Lens, and that is the end-to-end data integration platform. Meaning once the customer purchases the service, from door to door, they will be able to chase the information of the package. And it's under developing. It's not 100% fixed yet, but in that part, port plays a very important role. So traditionally, Ivan also mentioned the data transfer, the data integration. Traditionally, it was transferred by emails, attached files, but that is not matching the needs of our era anymore. So there was going to be a shared platform that the port can also input information, the shipping lines or the agent can also input information, forwarders, and the logistics on the land side, on the ocean side, on the sky side can also, all together put the information into one platform. So that's the endeavor that we're doing right now. Traditionally, port has some bottleneck in the data connectivities or the data sharing platforms, because some of the data come from the process which handled very manually, not digitalized. So this comes back to another topic. If we want to increase the data connectivities, the digitalization in every important process must be done, first of all. And then we can talk about how to increase the efficiency of the data integration. From the port perspective, one of the key factors to increase the data connectivity is automation. And the automation is a very interesting but deep topic, because not like shipping lines, the shipping is more international. We have IMO make rules that every shipping lines has to follow. But in the port side, it is very localized. Even the port business looks like each other, but in fact, it is quite different with each other. For example, we have different stakeholders to deal with, to work with, and the decision-making process is quite different. Even authority that you have to deal with, each and every country, regional, it's quite different. So challenge is different. In terms of the automation, it comes also the union issues, the opportunity that you can increase for the employment. So this is a very social or you can say it's very political topics if you going to dive into the depths. But anyhow, I can go on and on. But to wrap my perspective is that from the port side, in order to contribute to the data connectivities, automation is a key. And also, now we're talking about the logistics, the chain. It's not one part. It's not just shipping, not just a port, not just the air freight, not just the truck companies. It's the whole chain. And sometimes the customer needs to contribute into this data platform as well. Because when we have that clarity, then the efficiency of handling the cargo would be increased, definitely.
So Sakura, you actually mentioned some of the difficulties, and that was one of my questions to you. If a digital ship makes for a better terminal experience, so do you think this is actually true today, or we still have some way to go for that? In other words, is ship to terminal data integration and operational efficiency? If so, how? Or if not, when do you think that might be coming?
Yeah, thanks. As Damien mentioned earlier, that the pandemic is accelerating every process. I think in terms of the shipping and port, we are really at the entrance. Before we know this is a direction, the right direction we need to go, but maybe not now. But then when the pandemic comes to play, now we try to digitalize every process so that we can keep the social distance, so that we can not necessarily physically on site, but still can manage every process. So I think the answer or the perspective that I can offer to your question is we are in that direction, and the pandemic is accelerating that speed. I will see a lot more movement toward that directions. As APM terminals, I think we're on taking every step that we can toward that direction as well.
Thank you so much, Sakura. Vidya, coming to you. From a shipper's point of view, where are the next opportunities to be found when linking digital solutions or data-focused systems with the road to a low-carbon future?
Thank you for this question. One of our members was telling about the shipper point of view in a larger way. I would like to tell the same thing. Today's scenario, any shipper requires a transparency and visibility across the supply chain, and of course the easy way of transaction with various stakeholders associated with the supply chain. It's not limiting to shipping line. Actually, it's the whole supply chain altogether. To achieve this, from a shipper's point of view, what is most important is again interoperability. So the ability of various systems to talk seamlessly with each other and exchange data and information, so that a transactional perspective of shippers can be taken care more efficiently. In this regard, many initiatives are already ongoing. I would like to emphasize here one of the ambitious projects today. We are hearing trade lanes, trying to achieve this sort of interoperability with various systems and various stakeholders among shipping cycles. So this trade lanes is enabled by blockchain technology, and very first initiative has been taken in this direction. One other innovation which we have heard, and I can proudly say that we have introduced to market one innovative product, digital bill of lading. Digital bill of lading again. It's a evolution to shipping industry. and we are taking further ahead with this product, incorporating all associated documents along with bill of lading must transact digitally. Generally, we'll be able to achieve reduction of per usage, and actually we can act for planet here. So there are many such innovations are taking today, and CMA is always welcoming all these innovation solutions.
Thank you, Vidya. And what about skill sets? We talk about the future of shipping as if it happens without people, but people are at the core of this transition. And India has a very dynamic digital startup scene. What do you think the future will bring? Will there be enough interest in decarbonizing shipping in India? Do you think there's an interest towards that?
Yes, of course, but I would say the people are for nothing can be happened without human resource. So digitalization, we are providing a effortless solution to the customers and for the markets altogether. So doing the digitalization, further, we are opening further large market avenues for entire globe. So definitely, we are opening a new avenues and developing new markets, which is more ease to transact and ease to handle all of it. So when we are increasing the business, definitely the requirement of human resources are going to increase. So there will be more opportunities than the other way. So regarding skill set, I would say there's no deficit in this skill set today. We have a dedicated digital innovation ecosystem in our organization, compressing IT experts and the staff members from different business lines altogether. They are focusing towards, again, customer-centric and operational excellence and digital culture. So this and group is also ensuring equality and diversity in staff members when they are coming into the development of every individual. So one of our pillar of mission statement itself is acting for people. So it can be within the organization as well as our stakeholders. So our philosophy says that acting based on the technical solutions availability better available for better future. Coming to the decarbonizing, I would say decarbonizing is not an India-specific requirement. It is part of global commitment. Every individual across all domains must work towards this. As far as CMA is concerned, we are important of this commitment. We have definitely working towards the sustainable globalization through balanced international trade. Acting for planet is one of the pillars again in our CMA region's sustainability mission. And we are working in a different way, better way of working. That is what we are taking ahead. Improving environmental footprint. Our philosophy is to act, as I said earlier, to act as a act with better technology solutions and for the better future. Comes to the India specific, I would say India government is very much actively initiating many programs, and you would have heard very recent COP26 summit. Our Prime Minister was part of it, and Prime Minister announced many ambitious targets for country. One of those was carbon intensity reduction target by 50% by 2030. That means almost within 10 years. So definitely, this altogether, each of us are responsible for all these innovations and responsibility rather.
Thank you so much, Vidya. And we do have a little bit of time. So I have a question. It's for everyone really, and whoever wants to take it. It's about collaboration in the industry, and you know, the data and digitalization story has been rich with stories of out-of-the-box thinking, especially from startups that do not have any incumbent skin in the game. So do you think that startups and other digital companies in the shipping and transport chain have played a big role in creating collaboration and integration in the industry?
Yes, you're right, noticing that there are many startup ventures in logistics and supply chain domain today. Indeed, any such innovations bringing value to the table are always welcome. But as we were telling earlier, the same thing. The most important is today is creating an environment where we can overcome the trust deficit in the data sharing and achieving more interoperability among the systems owned by various stakeholders in the supply chain. The ventures which coming up offering digital price sales or marketplace solutions, we hope that all those ventures should have more focus to achieve this larger picture of interoperability, so that everybody can come under one umbrella and work together to achieve, have a smooth future. So group is part of such ventures. I was mentioning earlier, we are part of Fairlands. This is one of the initiatives aimed with achieving interoperability in our industry. So always welcoming such new thoughts from outside. And groups, one of such innovations is CBOX. CBOX is acting as an incubator and accelerator. I mean, to lay down the business as well as to develop it. And CBOX targeting the business sectors like transportation, logistics, and mobility. So there are many such innovations. We are also part of it. So as I said, startups and innovations are always welcome by our group also.
Could I just have a comment to Despina to that? I think we need startups, and we definitely need to learn from other industries as well. But all these startups need to get access to the vast data that the big established players have, and of course where the problem is, they need to really understand the customer's problems, right? Because normally they come with a lot of great technology, but they need real customer cases to solve. So I think the beauty is within collaborating with large established player and startups, and also getting competence from other industries. And then we're back to this, diverse teams that we need. We need all these young, sharp IT brains, but we need to couple it with the experienced people that we have in vessel operations and technical management of vessels. And it's only when we can make those teams work with both all the vast experience that is there and all the new technology and all the new ways of working, then we can really make magic. But it's, managing these diverse teams is a skill set that I think all companies need to acquire, and collaborating with many other companies. And then you have to be willing to give something. You cannot always just keep all your cards to yourself, because then there's no real collaboration. Then it's just, some fancy press release saying that we're working with this company. So it's only when you open up and you give something, and maybe you risk something as well. But we have to be willing to do that if we're going to progress. And this industry needs a lot of change.
And I think also the startup, many interesting startups will really like new fresh blood to this industry. Personally, I pay a lot of attention to two startups. One is the ocean cleanup. I mean, everybody of you might have heard of it. It's a startup started from San Francisco, and they're trying to collect all the garbage, the plastic garbage in the Pacific Ocean, and they're doing a lot of drill and doing really good. That's one startup I'm really paying a lot of attention to. And the other one is E5 Lab. Maybe this one, not many of you know, it's in Japan. It's a vessel designing lab focusing on the battery, EV, no, it's not, electrified vessels design. This is also for the environmental and DIVA. And I think even in a lot of industry, not only shipping, but also the automobile, the battery is still a task because of the quality of the battery and how long they can last. In terms of the ocean going shipping, then we also need more high quality battery to support the engine systems. So this is a two startup I'm really follow up. I think more this kind of startup come to our industry will really give us some new thoughts, inspire us to go to some new directions.
Yeah, I also connect from my side, I guess, because in Marine Digital, we are the startup itself. Basically, we believe that any new blood coming to the industry increase the competition level. And this challenge the status quo of the, not always, but sometimes challenge the status quo of the major technologies, and which brings the end product better for the end customer. And this is the basics. And inside the marine landscape, I can say, in comparison with the insurance market, for example, there's maybe a 100 times smaller community of startups, and actually it's only emerging for the last 2 years. And also I can say that the level of diversity in the maritime landscape is perhaps one of the lowest ever. As I remember the research of BIMCO of 2021, it's 1.2% of the female community inside this sector. So in general, I believe that the maritime industry is about the free access to something, the free access to data, the free access for like different types of the people, the free access to test the technology, and etc. Because in particular right now, we are facing a huge barriers in the data acquisition. Because we can see that actually all of the major brands, I won't tell you the name, but you will heard about them, they're actually blocking the way for the young companies to use their data, like in particular with the guarantee contracts, with etc. And it brings at the end, it brings the super high cost of the vessel, digitalization of the vessel data acquisition. And the same thing is everywhere around. And I believe that the new companies will bring the solutions, or will bring the opportunities to make this market normal in a way how the people from the general shore community believes it should be normal. The data should be at least accessible, and the data should be shareable. That the data, it's possible to calculate it. It's possible to understand if your voyage was sustainable or not. And like the market at the end, by attempts of the different young companies, by attempts of the different also non-marine companies, because also Amazon, IKEA, they also commit to use sustainable shipping right now, which also push the industry to work towards the upgrades of everything around. This will bring us the possibility at least to start think how we can like work together, how we can develop something more connected, I can say, not something internally or to challenge some particular technology, but at the end to the complex market application.
Thank you, Ivan. Any more answers to? No? Well, thank you so very much. We're very close to the end of our session. I think from all the discussions today, we've seen that the sustainable and decarbonization path that shipping is taking requires a huge shift in thinking across all stakeholders. Everyone will need to think and act differently, as well as work on new solutions. And of course, this will require an acceptance of new technologies and new business models. We have already begun to see that shift as shipping companies have begun to embrace digitalization. And we know there are plenty of digital solutions for all sorts of functions and parts of the transport chain that are now available. Of course, digital solutions only will not bring about decarbonization or will not provide you know, a magical resolution to our challenges, but they will definitely lead us to efficiencies, to transparency, and to collaborative practices. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vidya, Sakura, Pia, Damien, and Ivan for a great discussion today. And of course, thank you to the Maritime SheEO and Sanjam Gupta for organizing this virtual conference and for inviting us. Have a good day.